Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. This is my favorite episode because I have my friend from years ago who has since rocketed to stardom. This is Meredith Masony. She's on Instagram, close to 1 million followers, I think multiple millions on Facebook or something, right? And she went by That's Inappropriate, but now she just goes by Meredith Masony. Thank you so much for joining me today.
No, I was so glad that you reached out because you're right. I was trying to remember the date of the conference, and I want to say it was like 2015.
Yeah, it was like 2015. It was so
So
long ago. It's
a
like a
decade.
decade.
And
Yes.
I've been following you religiously for a decade. You come up in my feed. My husband was like, "Whose podcast are you on today?" I'm like, "You know her. She's always in my feed." I said, "She's the doctor, the doc psych mom, the mom, And I was like, Samantha, and he's like, I don't know. He mostly looks at Instagram bikini models so don't be upset. It's just, he's more into ass and titties than
Oh.
anything else. But
Perhaps
yeah,
I'll diversify,
you could
now
try.
that
I'm all for it.
it's probably the generation below me, though,
Yeah.
that really is the money shot there.
Uh,
Okay, so I wish I could talk to you for like 1 million hours, but I was thinking, well, we are basically, and we were saying this before we came, started recording, we're basically the same age.
mhm.
We're basically have the same amount of kids. That's not basically, we do have the same amount of kids.
We do.
And we are both women on the internet, which comes with a lot of bullshit. And we
Mm.
are both, I assume, in the same hormonal stage of life and rethinking kind of the transition from, being young. And so the way that I say it, or the way that I've heard it said, is that when you're in your 40s, you're an old young person, but then when you get to your 50s, you're a young old person. So that's why people get happier in their 50s.
Oh, I like that. That's promising.
That's promising, right?
I do. I like
Because
that.
48 is we're not 48 for anybody who's listening, but for a few years younger, but 48 is the least happy age.
Don't, why the fuck would you open this podcast with that?
Okay.
You know what?
She's just gonna take off her headphones and leave. She
I
doesn't have
can't. No,
time.
I do not have time for that because honest to God, the last 2 years of my life have been the hardest years that I have endured between my oldest going off to college, going into full menopause, because I had a hysterectomy at 38. So I
Wow.
surgically started as a result of a surgery, started menopause earlier. And then my ovaries that I got to keep went kaput. And so I just completely went into menopause. And so between my oldest son going off to school, my marriage was completely on the rocks. We were ready to divide assets and figure out the schedule on who's keeping kids on what day and what's going on. And just the turmoil of trying to figure out what it was that I was going to be when I grow up
Yeah.
all came crashing in at the same time. So if 48 sucks,
But
like,
you're precocious. No, honestly, like, I'm not just reassuring you. You had the hormonal change earlier. So I think a
mm,
large part, the average age of menopause is 52.
yeah. So yes, I do. And the thing is I assumed because they do say that it follows, and I've done so much research on menopause because I was thrust into it, I feel like so early. I
Yeah.
just started reading and reading and reading. But like my mom was around that age. And so like I assumed, oh, I'm
Yeah.
going to have time because they do say that you
Right.
follow sort of
Your
your
mother,
mother's
yeah.
path. Unfortunately for me, I had uh, a adenomyosis, something bad with my uterus. I had a very bad uterus, which we knew as a result, I had very complicated pregnancies. And so My uterus literally was shot to hell, and
Wow.
they ended up removing that, the cervix, the fallopian tubes. They left the ovaries, but then the ovaries started going bad. And so they had to go back in a few years later and take the ovary because it had those ovarian cancer cysts on it.
Wow.
So when that happens, then you're at, so like I wasn't making testosterone, which was a real bitch. And then I wasn't making estrogen. So it literally started to just go to zero with everything. And so all you
Wow.
do all the time is cry. Everything hurts. Everything is uncomfortable. You're dry down there. Your skin is on fire. You don't feel like a human being. And it wasn't until I started doing hormone replacement therapy that I realized how much your hormones do, in fact, contribute to the health
Uh,
and satisfaction of your daily existence, of just
Yeah.
being a human being.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's
You can't
crazy.
really feel feelings, the same way without hormones.
Well, you're feeling them you're either numb to everything
Yeah.
and you don't care, or you feel them at volume 100
Right.
and nothing is logical. Like there
Yeah.
are no logical thoughts that go through your mind. Like I've left grocery store carts full of shit because the item that I wanted was out of stock and I was like, oh, fuck it, and left. Like just like would
Yeah.
never in a million years do that, but I couldn't control my own body in that moment.
Hmm.
And I moved the cart to the side and I walked to the car and cried. And that was all I could do in that moment. And now I remember thinking like you would encounter these women, and be like, what is wrong with that person? Like that would never be me. And then it's you like 20 years
Yeah.
later and you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God. But thankfully, nowadays they are making like huge strides in HRT. I just saw that they're taking off the black box warnings in terms of estrogen with a lot of women who have suffered with breast cancer. I know that they're starting to take off the black box warning with testosterone. They're really trying to make some efforts for women who are going through perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I can tell you, I've been on testosterone and estrogen for 2 years, and it has made all the difference in
Yeah.
my mental health and my physical well-being.
Yeah. I mean, testosterone. Did you see that New York Times article? I'm on fire about the women with the big doses of testosterone.
Yeah, so I think you have to be so careful. And I think it's like anything else. We're talking about a medication. I would not go into this lightly. I would do the research. I would have the consultations with your physicians. I was in a boat where my OBGYN refused to do panels. He would not test my hormones. I had to go to a
Wow.
specialist.
Even
And
after all your stuff? That's crazy.
he was so he literally looked at me and said, I am an OBGYN. I am not a hormone specialist. I will not test you because I am not going to dose you.
Wow.
Those were his words. This is a medical professional giving me this information. So I went to a
Functional
hormone
medicine
specialist,
doctor. Yeah.
and I see them. I see them every 3 months. I get my blood work done every 3 months. I'm on a very low dose of testosterone and estrogen, just enough. And it literally does exactly what I need. I'm not, women get so worried. They're like, oh my God, you're just going to get these big muscles and you're going to grow all this facial hair and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And it's like, well, if you're overdosing, like absolutely there's a huge potential for that. But I'm taking such a small dose that it is literally just putting me at a normal range for where
Yeah, for
what
your
women
age.
should be at my age and
Well,
what
yeah, because
they're
you've been through
making.
menopause early,
Yeah.
which is hugely traumatic.
Yeah.
Do you
Oh,
feel like it had an impact then on the marital issues?
oh, 100%. A hundred
Yeah.
percent. I'm pretty sure that we have purchased our therapist a lake house somewhere in some state because we were in her office sometimes 2, 3 days a week, dealing with just everything you could imagine. Now, we've also been married where this is year 23.
Wow.
So this is not, I mean, it's not like a huge drop in the bucket, but been together for a stretch. We
That's
met
a
in
long marriage.
we
That's actually
met
called a successful marriage in many studies over 20 years,
okay, well
even
we
if you
met
got divorced.
we met in 1995 in high
Wow.
school,
Oh,
on and off. So I've known him for 30 years. I've
wow.
been married to him going into year 23. I have been very honest about the fact that I am diagnosed with a severe mental illness. I have not been public with what that mental illness is, but um, I've been very honest with the fact that not only are we doing couples counseling, I'm doing my own counseling. I did TMS therapy. I've
I
done
did
a
TMS for
oh
depression years ago. I could never tell if it did anything because it's so cyclical, like the season change, because I had been doing it for so damn long. So then
yeah.
eventually it became spring. And so I was like, what is this experiment?
And
Can't really tell.
the thing with TMS that they say that you can do now, and I don't know, depending on how long ago you did it, is if you've qualified and your insurance covers it, you can do it again in 6 months to a year as a shorter mini course as like
Oh,
to
yeah.
reform, and they allow you to do that so many times because of what you're saying. Like, could it have been just this, like it was a
Right.
seasonal thing or
Yeah,
whatever?
what's it to them? You just sit in that thing, that big magnet sitting there anyway in their office.
Here's the thing that I think is so great about TMS and why I think if you can't do it or it's not covered by insurance, here's what I'll tell you to do. And I am by no means have any medical training whatsoever. It is about practicing and training your brain to recognize gratitude and then rewarding your brain when you actually recognize the gratitude. So giving yourself 15, 20 minutes. I'm a bird lady. I love to watch the birds. I feed the
That
birds.
happens at our age. My
Yep.
husband likes birds as well.
I go in the backyard, I fill my feeders, I water my plants, I have my bird app, I have all my shit, right? I watch my birds. But in the morning, I have that feeling of this gratitude of like, oh, look, it's a warble belly Chesterfield. Like they've come to eat my seed today. Like that kind of shit sets your brain up for success. And if you're doing it at the beginning of the day, right in the morning, that's what TMS is really about. TMS is about getting those magnets to focus on the part of the brain while they're feeding you these gratitude prompts. And they're basically trying to tell you, like, make your brain grateful, make your brain
Somebody
grateful.
talked to you during your
The whole
TMS?
time, my entire time we were in there, they were
No
talking to
shit. Well,
the
nobody
entire.
talked to me.
Oh, I'm telling you, I think that was a whole difference maker for me. It was all about training your brain
Wow.
to find positive gratitude and have this sort of practice so that you're not going to worst case scenario. You're not
No,
going to
wow.
that dark spot. So it was for me, I thought it was great.
That's like how people are doing ketamine therapy now. I tried that as well years ago, where they talked to you during that. It
See,
didn't really do anything.
I can't do that because I'm afraid because I'm about 10 months sober and I definitely had a wine problem. I was drinking wine as a crutch. I was using it at night. It was a let's not feel the effects of the day type of situation. So I don't want to touch ketamine because I'm afraid I'll like it a lot.
Uh, yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't want to go anywhere near it. I also read Matthew Perry's book, which if you've not read his book, he talks a ton.
I've,
I mean, because he died as an overdose of
yeah,
ketamine.
yeah.
Obviously, he wasn't doing it the way he was supposed to be doing it, but as an addict, I think people really, it limits your options when it comes to various drug therapies because you
Hmm.
don't want to get, hooked
Yeah,
up to
yeah.
ketamine and then be like, oh my God, I got
Well,
to
it
go do
didn't work
ketamine.
for me anyway, so
No,
don't worry.
I'm
It
I'm not
didn't work for
interested, but I know that,
nothing does. Yeah,
yeah.
it's always things have side effects. And at this point, I'm just like, menopause will come in a decade, and then the shit changes. Like mine is always very hormonal, very much the second half of the cycle sucks every time, and it's very, very tied to the ups and downs of the cycle.
Have you been tested? Have you had your panel run?
Yeah, yeah. I tried testosterone years ago, but it was off label for depression. It must be very different around here in the DC area. They'll just try anything. You don't even have to
Mm,
ask. But if you go to an integrative or a functional medicine
right.
doctor, then
I find that
they'll
interesting.
try anything.
Yeah.
You're in Florida, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it may
very,
be different
everything
in the
is
big
very
coastal cities.
regulated.
They're fiending to do your hormone panels. But I'm definitely in perimenopause no matter what. I mean, I'm still getting my period regularly every
Yeah.
month the exact same way, but not the same way. It's like lighter and everything. But I'm looking forward because my migraines have gone down. That was also tied to my hormones. And as you said, it goes like your mother. And my mother and my grandmother stopped getting migraines after menopause. And this has been the thorn in my side for my
Yeah.
whole life. And
Yeah.
it's really a big change. And also, I have a podcast called The Same Hormones That Made Her Crazy Are Leaving the Building, talking about the benefits for many women. For many women, it's super hard. Obviously, the transition, especially. But when you talk to also a lot of women who are postmenopause, there's a great book, a Flash Count Diary by Darcy Steinke. There's a lot of women who say it's basically like being a child again. Like you're actually happy. You don't feel like tied to the ups and downs, the vicissitudes of your mood over the cycle. Like
Right.
you're just kind of free of the beast of it.
I-
And I am looking forward. I
It's
deeply am looking forward to it.
sounds like
I'm so
Disney
much more
World.
rational now than I used to be. Even with this decrease, how whatever the decrease is of estrogen and
Right.
everything.
Yeah. So, and I think it also depends, and where a lot of women get confused, especially if they don't get a panel or they're not exactly sure, they're in a state where they don't have access to these things.
Yeah.
I was estrogen dominant, and that triggers very intense mood swings when you're estrogen dominant. And it caused so many reproductive issues for me. And it was, two
Yeah,
periods a month,
you sound
heavy.
like
So
you had a whole difficult road to hoe, and it's
it,
really great that you talk about this stuff so
it was
that women
awful.
are not ashamed to go seek help or to say this isn't normal or whatever.
Well, and you have to remember too, as somebody who's 45, nobody was having these talks with me where it was like, you're going to get your period and it's going to be like, there was no period talk. I
You didn't have a
literally,
period talk.
no, my mom was like, I was like, I'm bleeding. And she's like, she threw a box of like pads at me and she was just like, good luck. And I was like, had no idea. So then I just kept going and asking for more and more. And she's like, you shouldn't need this many. And I said, well, I get my period and then a week I don't. And then I get it again. And every time it's 2 weeks. And she's like, you're bleeding for two. I was so anemic. I was literally bleeding to death, but because nobody was talking about
So is
this,
endometriosis?
it was, yeah, it's a form of endometriosis. So it wasn't until I was literally almost bleeding to death that my mom took me to a doctor
Wow.
because she's like, I think there's something wrong with her cycles because nobody was talking about it. It wasn't a conversation we were
Crazy.
having in the house. It wasn't like, and I played sports. So it
Wow.
was just, I was going through tampons, like just super, super plus tampons nonstop. And so I
Wow.
finally got checked out and they were like, oh, yeah, we have to put her on the pill. We have to regulate her or she's going to have these, periods like this. And so it wasn't until almost 2 years in of
That's
bleeding to death
crazy.
because nobody was talking about it. It just was not a conversation, where
Yeah, in
now,
some families it's not.
and now it's like, I couldn't imagine like my poor children can't breathe a certain way without me being like, okay, so exactly how are you feeling in this moment in
Yeah.
time? I'd love to know the origin of your mood. And they're like, shut up, mom. But and it's funny because on the internet, I'm very blunt and very brash and whatnot. But when it comes to my kids, like I've been open about this as well. Like if they need to see a therapist, I take them to a therapist. If we need to
Yeah.
sit down and have a family conversation, we're having family conversations. Nothing is off the table. We are talking about all of it. We're talking about sex. We're talking about consent. We're talking about dating. We're talking about, do you want to go to college? Do you not want to go to college? I don't really care. Don't go to college if you don't want to go to college. Like, shit, don't waste my money. Don't
I
waste your
told you
money.
that's just that you're an introvert.
Yeah, to me, it's just one of those
You're an
things where,
outside the box thinker.
yeah,
I mean, I
I
feel
don't,
the same about college. I feel like college has gotten ridiculous. Like, not everybody's meant to go to college. A lot of people do not like sitting there doing academic work. They just don't. And that used to be totally normal. Not everybody sits down and does academic work all the time. And it should be totally normal for that not to be the path.
people have forgotten because it has been 30-ish years how it, so I was a public school teacher for a long time.
I didn't know that.
In
What
my
grade?
previous year, I taught high school, middle school and high school. And so what people
Wow.
have forgotten is that our parents, our group, that where I'm talking people who are between 45 and 50, our parents were not slated to go to a traditional college. There were track systems out of the high schools where they went into trade programs. And
Yeah.
if they tested high enough, they could go to university or whatever. Also, by the way, for people who don't know this, prior to the Reagan administration, college was free. Nobody was paying to go to university. It was a not-for-profit educational system.
You mean like
All
the
of this,
community colleges and everything? 'Cause there was
I
always
mean,
private
there
colleges
were
where
private
people
colleges,
paid
but there
tuition.
were state schools that you paid $0 to go to. And there were these track systems. And so what people have forgotten is that plumbers, electricians, any trade,
All the
you
pink collar occupations, the nurses,
right.
etc.
Well, but you don't have to go to a 4-year university and spend all of your money. We need trades. We
Yeah.
need people to know how to do this type of service work, or our society will completely crumble. Like my kid, my baby, the youngest, is in a track program at his high school where he will start going to HVAC training to be an air conditioner repairman. That is his goal. He wants to be an AC tech. My brother owns an air conditioning company, wildly successful. We live in the state of Florida. Everybody needs air conditioning, right?
That's for
Like
sure.
everybody has it. He's my brother basically fucking prints money. Okay. The guy has figured it out. And mind you, he is much younger than me. He's 15 years younger than me. He never wanted to go to college. I drug him across the stage in high school. At 19, I could barely get him to graduate. We couldn't figure out what he was going to do with his life. Turns out it was a trade. This
Yeah.
trade has made him a crazy amount of money. He's so smart when it comes to his entrepreneurial
He
goals.
must have ADHD. A lot of ADHD guys are awesome entrepreneurs because shit is moving all the time. It's stimulating, it's
My
exciting.
husband, my daughter, my son, all ADD.
Uh-huh.
So we said to him, buddy, you don't got to go to college.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? He said, I want to do what Uncle Bubba does. Great. Let's get you in the track program. You got to take your regular credits. Then you can go. There's a trade school 2 miles down the road. They will teach you the whole HVAC system. I said, how does his worth value or anything depend on whether or not this kid goes to college? It has nothing. There's
It
zero
has
tie
nothing
to
to
it.
do with it.
It has
Yep,
nothing to do with it.
100%.
Go to
100%.
school, learn a trade, make some money, buy a boat. The kid likes to fish, go fishing, do your thing. I'd love it if you got a wife, maybe I'd love grandkids someday. Like these are my wishes, not
Me too. I
yours.
don't think we're allowed to say that anymore, but I say it all the
Right.
time.
But I'm like, I'd love to have, because I think I'd make a kick-ass Mima. You know what I mean? Like, I would be a really good, like, I'll take you on
You
all the
would.
cruises. I'll buy you all the shit. Like, I'll do everything that I wouldn't do for my kids, I'll do for my grandkids. But I'm just saying, I think that there is such an old way of thinking that
Yeah.
ties these parents to this idea that there is some worth and value there that is just non-existent.
And you just throw out money for a kid to drink in a different state. And it's like crazy to me. Like if you're just gonna party, and a lot of kids just want to party, they're not into the academics. So then they go to school, they party, they have a nice 4 years, but the parent paid so much money and was working for that. And is that like a good trade? Literally, like to trade years of your life tied to a job that you may not like for your kids to go drink at a tropical location instead of nearby?
So, side note on that, because you bring up a very good point on a conversation that I think a lot of parents need to start having. The alcohol industry has actually had a massive decline. Kids are
Yeah, I
not
know. It's
kids
great.
are not drinking the way they used to drink, the way we used to drink. Okay?
Yeah,
Like and it was a
constantly.
lot, especially in college. However, watch your kids because they are absolutely, and I have this tattooed on my chest. You can't see it because you're listening to a podcast, but I have the words never say never tattooed on my chest because I will, the second you say never, they will go nevering all over the place. Your kids are most likely trying gummies, other drugs in edible form because they still want to experience some type of high or some
State
type of
change.
feeling, but
Yeah.
it has vastly moved away from alcohol. So you have to start having conversations with your kids about what they're ingesting because fentanyl is so dangerous and it is cut in a lot of these edibles that these kids are taking and they're thinking that it's just, okay and it's not a big deal because so and so got a bag from XYZ or whatever. You have to have these conversations. I got such a kickback because I sent my kid to school with Narcan and people flipped their shit. And I was like, wait a minute. My kid's going off to school. I surely hope that my kid is not ever going to do anything where he can be in a situation that he overdoses. But Narcan is purchased. You can get it at a grocery store these days. Do you know why you can get it at a grocery store? Because it is so prevalent that these overdoses are happening. They want you to have access to this drug to save lives. So I said, if I can send this to school with my kid and his roommate ODs, he knows he has the Narcan there. If he OD'd, God forbid, the Narcan is there. I said, I am not going to be a parent who coulda, woulda, shoulda. I'm sending my kid to school with these things. And people went ape shit bananas. And I'm thinking to myself, would you rather not have the conversation?
Well, it's like how people get crazy in a previous generation about sending the kid with condoms, you know? I mean, it's exactly
Oh,
the same thing.
good Lord. I have those on auto ship. Okay. Amazon auto ship to his dorm. I'm not leaving it up to chance. Because here's the thing. Why leave this up
I
to
thought you wanted
chance?
to become a grandma. You're really
Well, not
reducing your
yet.
chances.
Not yet. Good Lord. He's gonna be 20 this year. I get a few, 25, 30, like I need a little bit of time. But I do, like people were so, because I did like a college box. I showed people what I put in his stuff when we were packing for his
Right.
dorm room. And they went crazy when they saw Narcan and condoms. They were like, what are, you're just sending him off to party and do drugs and have sex. And I was like, what do you think they're going to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Ah,
true. It's
okay.
true. It's true.
So
You
it's like you could,
gotta maybe open your eyes and see that there's things that could happen, and a lot of people don't want to because they think it means condoning. I
well,
think,
and
well,
here, yeah,
well, go ahead.
that's what it is. You're right. They think if I purchase this, I am condoning behavior. I have news for you. You're not making choices for that child anymore because they're not a child. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It doesn't matter if you condone it, enjoy it, think it's a great idea. They're their own person. They're going to make that choice.
Yeah, it's a huge transition for so many women. I mean, and men, but like,
Yeah.
women when their kids go to college. And I mean, even just the independence alone is scary. But then the fact that they're not like physically there, you get used to them being there, you get used to,
That was the hardest part was not having so I call them my baby birds and not having because I am such a weird bird lady. I don't have all my birds at home at night anymore. And
yeah,
that was the weirdest feeling was knowing that I had to go to bed and he wasn't under the roof anymore.
right.
And so, and you start to, get alerts, right? Because of course I do have Life 360. I pay for whatever the platinum package is, so he gets roadside assistance.
Good.
And that means that if his car breaks down, because like we don't have AAA. Everybody used to have AAA, right? Now it's like everybody's got Life 360 and they have roadside assistance. But you'll get alerts. And I'm getting alerts at 3, 4 a.m. that he's in South Beach in Miami. And it's
Wow.
like, like I really don't want to know that
You
he's
should shut
in.
off the alerts. A
So
lot of people have to shut them.
I showed my husband, I said, turn this off so that I'm not seeing, because that was literally driving me insane. Because it's like,
Yeah,
I want to know that he has access to the tool that is, I can get roadside assistance, but I also don't want to know that he
right.
is in South Beach at
Yeah,
3:30
it's
in the
too
morning.
much. It's too
That's
much to
too
know all
much.
that stuff. Yeah, it's
So
just too much.
so I didn't know how to do it. So I gave him the phone and I was like, make this stop because I can't handle that. Because I don't want to know those things, right? And I also can't tell him, no, you can't go to South Beach. You're a
Of
grown up.
course not.
Like
He's gonna go.
he's 20, it's like I can't do that.
Is he more like you or more like your husband?
He's more like me. He is, an old soul. He's very empathetic. He's very kind. He's very sweet. He's very task list oriented. But he's smart. So he takes after my husband in that respect. He's book smart
You're
and he did,
smart.
well, I'm talking like he's taking like some
Math
ridiculous
classes and stuff. Yeah.
statistical some things. I never passed college algebra. So like I'm not when it comes to those types of things, like I could never sit in a math class and be like, well, I'm gonna pass. Like that's not happening. But he has that ability to, numbers, spreadsheets, those types of things. He takes after my husband. But in terms of, he still calls me every day.
Oh, that's cute.
He texts every night. Good night, mom. I love you.
Oh,
We have a group chain, a family chain, and then he texts me separately because he knows. He's like he knows my mom worries about me, so I text my mom. Like he's in that respect. Now my daughter, I don't know if when she leaves this house, if that child is going to text me again. Uh, she she is so fiercely independent, which I
That's
think
how my oldest daughter is too.
so fiercely independent. But I think that was I did that too because I wanted to make sure that she was going to be able to survive this world. And so
Yeah.
I basically told her like you can rely on no one, do it yourself. And that I think scared the shit out of her a little bit and she can. So, I think that we obviously we treat them very different. They're different people, not just because it's a boy or a girl, they're different people. So I treat them differently. And then
It is different. Oh, what's the
yeah,
baby? The baby,
the,
nobody,
who
yeah, could do
knows? The
whatever they
baby does
want.
what the baby just lives his best life. He does whatever he wants whenever he wants.
Did
He
you ever
really,
see those TikToks with the oldest child comes in and the parent yells, "Take your shoes off," and they take their shoes off. The middle child comes in and they walk right in with their shoes, and then the youngest comes in and the parent takes the shoes off for them.
yeah, but that's true. It really is. That baby, it's just like all the rules, everything goes out the window, and it's just like, oh, it's gonna be okay. And I don't know if it's because it's your last one type of thing, but I totally believe in birth order, like, and the
Oh
way
yeah, for
we parent,
sure.
like birth order is no joke. Like it is a for
You
sure
can
thing.
always, I can guess most of the time if some what the birth order is for my clients before they tell me. And if I get it wrong, it's because something happened. Like they were a middle, but the oldest like had mental illness, so then they act like an oldest, like something like
Right,
that, you know?
right,
So it is always very, very interesting.
yeah.
And so for everybody, okay, because I don't, obviously you know this, like what am I going to be when I grew up? You said before, but because you're like so successful online, you make this whole empire. Like, how did you decide to do that? Like, how did you decide that, like, you didn't decide? You just felt,
I
how did it happen?
no, it was so for me, I got lucky because I thought I was going to die. So, and that sounds dramatic because I am dramatic, but I had an esophageal tumor in 2014 and was given 5% survival rate.
Wow.
So it was luckily it wasn't cancerous. We didn't know that at the time because they couldn't biopsy it because of the location it was in my esophagus. So they gave me a couple of weeks to quote unquote get my affairs in order. I had three very little kids at that point because I was 34. So I had a 4, a 5, and a 8-year old.
Wow.
And I started doing an actual true, what I would say, inventory of my life and like what I had done right, what I hadn't done right, what I wish I could have done if things had gone differently. You know, as my mom said, what if I wake up dead? One of my mother's true. We call her Christineisms because it's like she's like, one day you'll just wake up dead. And I'm like, I don't think anyone is gonna wake up dead, Christine, but I get your point. Um, and so I kind of did this inventory. I got very lucky and I did this inventory. So I always wanted to be on SNL. I always wanted to be a writer. I always had this like idea that I would be some stand-up comedian at some point or this or that. And I never had the guts to do it. I just never would risk it.
Mhm.
And when I got sick, I kind of said, if this isn't cancer and I get a redo, I'm going to do it.
Wow.
And it wasn't cancer. I had to have a couple of reconstructive surgeries after that. So it was a couple of years until I sort of got my normal, like got into a normal swing of my body working the right way because the surgeries were tough. But right after the initial surgery, I started the written blog. And that's how we ended up meeting at Blog U because it
Right,
was it was
right.
all a written blog at that point. And then I realized if I was going to push outside of that comfort zone, I had to start doing video. And then I started taking stand-up comedy classes, and then I started taking
Wow.
improv classes, and then I
So you had a
just
real near-death experience that changed your
yeah,
trajectory.
it was a, like Oprah's aha moment sort of situation where I was like, this is, I married the right guy. I had these three beautiful kids, but I was not what I would say. I wouldn't say I was doing what I was called to do. And
Right.
people, I feel like sometimes that comes across shitty where they're like, you were a teacher. You didn't feel called to that. And I was like, no, I didn't. I didn't.
A
I
lot of
did,
teachers don't. That's
I
idealistic of those people.
I did that job because I had a college degree in history and I was able to take all of the competency tests and pass licensing to teach, which I was a competent teacher, but I wouldn't
Right.
say that there was passion behind that. And I've met
Uh-huh.
passionate teachers who
Yeah.
were phenomenal and changed the course of these kids' lives. I
Mhm.
wasn't doing that.
Right. But you must have
I
been funny in the
I was
classes.
I played a lot of dodgeball until they outlawed it because I would bean the shit out of the kids. But I was because I taught PE, I taught everything. I got so bored that I would be like, give me a different class. So I would teach econ, American history, PE, sex ed. I mean, I taught everything because I just got
Wow.
bored. I was
Yeah.
always like, what else you got? I don't want to teach this anymore. What else you got? So it became abundantly clear that if I was going to do something and leave some type of mark, I wanted it to be how I was feeling as a mom, a woman, a wife, and that loneliness. And I wanted to be able to make sure women could feel heard and seen going through this journey because it's so isolating. And it to me, it was what I realized was I I was the loneliest and I was always surrounded by people.
That is the introvert thing. Not to be crazy, but that is the definition of it, by the way.
It was so crazy to me to be like, I have people around me all the time, my kids, my husband, all of this. And I feel so isolated and alone because it felt like my role was simply caregiver, support, make
Right,
sure
right,
everybody
right.
has what they need.
Yep.
But I was slowly losing every part and piece of myself. And that to me was like, I was like, I can't be the only one feeling this. But
Nope.
yet you look online and you saw everybody in their white shirts and their jeans on the beach taking family photos. And you saw
Yeah.
every vacation photo and you saw every happy Thanksgiving and you saw and it was just like, do they have that and we don't have this? Like, what are we doing wrong? Like, why can't I figure this out? And I realized it's because it's bullshit and people choose to only post those things and they don't post about the rest of it. And so that's when I was like, fuck it, I'll post all of it. Like, I just don't care.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you how
Yeah.
hard it is
Well, you know what
because
that
it
is? You know
is.
what that's called? There's a book called The Second Mountain. You had your second mountain. So you have your
Mm,
first mountain where you do your conventional high achieving, like what you're supposed to do, like be a teacher, pass your exam so you could be a teacher, have your salary. But then some people have the second mountain, all that stuff starts to feel disingenuous and inauthentic. And so they had their first mountain, and then they're in this down period where they're like, what the hell am I doing? Why does this good life not seem to be fulfilling? And then they have their second mountain of a different sort of career that feels more authentic to them. And that's exactly what you did.
yeah, well, I'm gonna have to maybe read on that one because and of course I quit 100 times, right? Like in that valley
Right.
of getting to this second mountain.
Yeah.
Like I would just say this isn't gonna work. This is stupid. Why am I trying to do this? Like you get in the beginning, especially you get the trolls that just come out and they want to just devour your
Oh, yeah,
spirit.
yeah.
And it took me a while to realize, like, I don't give two shits what you think about my parenting. I don't care what you think about my marriage. You don't pay my bills. You aren't like I was
Yes.
talking about, getting breast augmentation. And my husband was like, at first, he was like, maybe don't tell anybody because you don't want to have to deal with the repercussions. And I don't want you to feel bad with people talking about your body. And I said, I love you and I really appreciate that you care. I said, but if I don't mention this, everyone on the internet will notice because I have no breasts and then I will show up with breasts. So I said, this is not a situation where you can just be like, surprise, I'm back. I was gone for a
Oh
week.
yeah, these people obsess about you. They would notice
Well,
any little change. You could get your eyebrows tweezed and they would notice it.
but it's not subtle
True,
either. You know what I
yes.
mean? Like it,
However, on the other side of that, I got my boobs done, as I told you, in 2014 after I finished weaning my last kid. I was so anxious. I was 34 then, and I was so anxious showing up in session the next week that people were going to be looking. Not one client noticed, not one of them. Because I dressed like normal, like in a sweater, and so what are they going
right.
to notice, But
Right.
it was so funny. But I do believe that with your workout videos and all your like in real life stuff, living in Florida with tank tops, they would definitely notice, and
Well, I'm
they
always
would think it
running
was
around.
against your whole brand, against being genuine,
Yes.
right?
And the thing is like I'm always running around in a sports bra because I live my
Yep.
life in a sports bra and yoga pants. That's how I run around everywhere. And then I throw on a hoodie if I'm leaving the house. But
Yep.
I'm always filming and you always see me, in a sports bra. And I would have been called the biggest hypocrite on the planet if
For
I didn't
sure.
say I'm going in to get my tits done. And here's the other thing. Nobody else is paying for this. I paid for this. I saved up from my original appointment. I saved up for almost 2 years to do this.
Wow.
And every time I would
I
put
bought it with
money
my
aside,
book money when I
that's
sold my first book.
nice. And so for me, it was like, and every time I would get close to canceling it and saying I'm not going to do it, I would look at that money that I'd saved and thought, I worked really hard to put this in here when I worked, for XYZ and I worked maybe don't because I tried to cancel this like 10 times because
Really?
I just psyched myself out thinking,
Yeah.
why are you doing something cosmetic? Why are you doing this? And finally, I realized I'm doing this because every time I'm naked with my husband, I want to cover my chest. every time I'm in bed with him and he goes to grab me, and I say that in a loving way, a loving grab, I I shy away from him. Every time he goes
Yeah.
to turn me, I'm putting my arms up. And that's because I have, I don't think it's a word, but uncomfortability with it. I feel uncomfortable with it. He has never once complained about my body, the way it looks, the way it feels, none of it. He's always been um very loving
Love.
and very supportive about my body, but I never felt that way. I never felt like a woman with a silhouette. Like when people talk about curves, like I don't have a single curve. There's no curve to me. There's no shape. And so
Yeah.
to think that I could do something to give myself some confidence to feel that way with him, or even just to feel that way when I catch a glimpse in the mirror,
It's a
made
great decision. I loved
made
it.
me feel like, oh, okay, yes, there's vanity in this, but I think that I might be able to actually elevate my mental state with this. I don't know if that's the right way to think about it or not. I'm just saying it's my honest way of thinking about it. And so, it was a choice I made, and I did it, and I've been recovering for a week, and I've also been documenting the recovery. And some of the best comments are women who are like, got mine done the same day as you. I've been watching your posts every day to see how you're healing and how I'm healing. We have our post op on the same day. And so we're in
Yeah.
there talking to each other. And I'm like, oh, how are your armpits? Are you having any drainage? Like we're asking all of these questions to each other. And this woman's like,
Yeah.
yes, I'm having drainage. One boob is bigger than the other, blah, 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 blah. And, so we're like formulating questions to ask our surgeons as we go into our post-op appointments. And it's just a nice community where we're all kind of just talking about this. There are
Yeah.
definitely people who are saying awful things, but I'm just not engaging with it
Oh,
because
fuck
I
that.
don't
What do they
care.
care what you do with your own boobs?
Oh,
Ugh.
everybody cares about what
I know they're
everybody's doing
so
with
nasty.
everything.
People in the comments are completely nasty. They are mean. They say terrible things all the time. But I had an epiphany similar to you, and I get way less comments than you because I have way less of a platform. But even on mine,
Oh, I
and I
see
just
yours. I see yours. I love that you post them.
yeah, I post them because I
Yeah.
was like, it's a funny thing to show my girls. If a man says something nasty about your looks or your voice, it's funny. Like, fuck him. He's not giving me money. He's not, as you said, he's not paying my bills.
No.
Why would I care? There's another way to respond, which is just that's funny. Like it is amusing that you're taking the time to try to take me down, literally contributing to my platform by commenting, literally giving me content.
Right.
I mean, it was just like kind of an epiphany. Like I could either stop doing it because everybody would be mean and then, just not have a platform, not grow my practice. Because, that's how I get clients for my whole group is people see
Right.
me online and doing my reels about relationships and psychology and whatever. Or I could just not give a shit. And that would be the only way to move forward. As I say
Yeah.
to my girls, like with every president, 50% of people don't like him. And that's like the highest office in the land. This isn't political about the current president.
Right.
I'm just
Right.
saying, with anybody who's at the top or is doing well, you got a lot of people who don't like you. So you're going to decide not to do well, or you're going to decide that that's just part of it.
But along the way, you will find people who will support you
Oh,
and
yeah.
help you and guide
Mm-hmm.
you and say, "Oh, I've been here. This is what I tried.
Yep.
Maybe do this, maybe do." Because when I first started this, I did meet a lot of women who had zero interest in being of help. I did. And
Yeah. Some people don't even respond to
it
emails and
stuck with
stuff.
me. It stuck with
Yeah.
me. And I said, I will never turn away somebody who comes to me and says, "Hey, I'm struggling with XYZ. Do you have any advice?" Because here's the thing, I can give you advice. I'm not going to say that it's going to work. I'm not going to say that it's going to be the right thing for you or your platform or your personality or whatever. I said, but the only reason that I have maintained employment on the internet is because I am the same fucking person on this podcast. I'm the same fucking person on my lives. I'm the same fucking person if we go to have a cup of coffee. I'm the same fucking person when I'm bitching in therapy. I am the same fucking person when I go and I do a stand up. That is who I am. It's the only reason
Yeah.
I've maintained because I
Yeah.
truly believe that if that is who you are, people will find you. You become friends with these people. I've done 2 community cruises. I've done stand-ups where I've met, I've been so lucky. I've done hundreds of stand-ups across the US and Canada where I've gotten to meet these women and men, these couples in real in person, in real time, and had conversations. And it's a true community. And the same
Yeah.
goes for you. And you're doing it in a whole other way where you're literally helping these people, whether it be with their own mental health struggles or as a couple or whatever. But I mean, that's a whole other layer. That's a fucking huge onion that you're, getting into over there. But it is so important. And I will never, if as long as I can help it, I will never turn somebody away and say, I don't want to offer you a piece of advice. Because how on earth does me not giving you a piece of advice help me in any way,
Yeah.
shape, or form? Like
Yeah.
I don't get what people are what they get out of that.
People get very narcissistic the bigger that they get. They think that they don't have time and they don't have this. And yeah, you only do have so many hours in the day. But to respond to, it's like in my field, honestly, like so many therapists don't even write back when people reach out. And that bothers me because you can't even write back an email that says you're full. Like it's just
Yeah.
that will take you like, it takes you 15 seconds. If you don't have enough time to do that, hire somebody who could do it. Because it really, when people just throw their voices into the void and nobody responds to them, it's very depressing. It
Yeah.
really is.
And I try to remind people that I don't go into DMs frequently because of the size of the platforms and
Well,
how many we
sure, the
get.
DMs is different, but if somebody
So
like specifically
I
wrote you
always
a
say
long email
email,
or something,
email, email,
yeah,
email. And my email is
right,
everywhere. Like
yeah,
you can find my email anywhere. You'll see. I even put it in comments. It's like, you wanted to
yeah.
ask me a question? This is where I check. I said, I can't check. At one point I had to turn off Facebook messages because it was just
Well, you must get thousands. It's
a
like
day. And
crazy.
and it's
Yeah,
like I can't answer.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, but
yeah,
if you
yeah.
want me to see it,
Mhm.
I do check my email and I will see it and it'll be underneath some coupon for a Yankee Candle or whatever, but I'll see your email, and that's why I tell people, I'm not bullshitting you. I respond a ton via email because it's easy access and I can see it. But I can't getting lost in
Yeah.
DMs is insane these days because that access is not, I don't feel like that is really how people get connected because
No,
how
no,
could
you
you
can't really do
possibly keep up with
get
it?
through all that. Yeah.
Like
Well,
that's a lot.
speaking of which, I do have to, and I wish I could talk. Maybe I'll talk to you another time. I
Oh
love
yeah,
having you.
I'd love to come back because I do want to talk at some point. I think we should talk a little more about couples therapy because people ask me about this all the time, and I do have a very strong opinion on quote unquote the one and
You
how
mean the
people.
right couples therapist?
No, I mean the
The
one.
right partner. Oh, I would
Yes.
love to have you again, Kim.
So
I
I'd
am going to
love,
email you now
yeah,
that you implicitly promised to respond.
I
I am
will.
going to email you again. And for everybody who is listening, this was an awesome conversation with Meredith, who took time during her recovery of the best decision that many women make. I deeply believe the breast augmentation to talk with us. So thank you so much. You are so sweet and genuine, and I'm so glad that I met you and that I am talked to you today. And you just committed to coming back, so
I'll
I
be
am.
back.
You will be back. Thanks everybody for listening, and bye, Meredith.
Bye, guys.